Welcome to another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry Alex Taunton, and I am ready to take your questions on this fine Southern morning. I'm looking forward to engaging with you, the Posse, and with other would-be members of the Posse, or as the case may be, with antagonists and potential jerks who might be paying attention to what we're saying today. I want to begin by talking a little bit about where I have been. Now, members of the Posse will know that I have been pretty busy on and off engaging with the immigrant crisis, the mass human trafficking crisis, the border crisis for about 5 years. I've been making my way south of the border to various countries in Mexico, which is North America. A lot of Americans don't realize that. Central America and all over South America. And I just went one more time. I had scheduled this to coincide with the election because I wanted to see how the election affected mass immigration, the run for the border, as Taco Bell once eloquently put it, and particularly if Trump won. But I had scheduled the trip regardless. I had scheduled it for the day after the election. So election night, I stayed up on pins and needles, waiting for the steal, waiting for the counting to stop, waiting for Democrats to start boarding up windows and telling election observers they all had to go home. And then the next day, magically, Kamala Harris would be announced the winner. But, you know, my wife, Lori, she went to bed. She said, you should go ahead and go to bed. I was like, no, I cannot. I am staying to the bitter end, and did. And then, of course, Trump was announced as the winner, rightfully. The first president to be elected 3 times since FDR. And I only got a few hours sleep, and then I was on my way to the airport and off to Mexico City, and then from there to Colombia. Now, I'm going to devote an Ideas Have Consequences, a proper episode to this and to understanding it. But yeah, it's interesting because Lori said to me, you know, if views are any indication, your audience is not interested in the immigration issue. And I have to say, she's pretty right, you know, about that anytime I've talked about that issue, the view count just really isn't there. And yet I am determined to talk about this issue. I am determined that you will hear what I have to say on this issue. And it is because I think I am just smug enough to believe that I am about the only person who is going to tell you the truth about what's going on there. We have 2 views on this, and they're very polarized. And one of them is, you know, on the Democrat side is, and they're lying, of course, is that if you don't have open borders and you don't accept all the world's migrants, well, then you just don't care about people. You're just cold-hearted. And I have been telling migrants south of the border, Democrats are not your friends. They do not care about you. I promise you. They are making cynical use of you. But on the other side, Republicans have become or conservatives have become so sick and tired of this issue that they have reacted by, you know, speaking in a way that I just don't like when it comes to these mass migrations. I think 2 things are true at once. One is we need a strong border. I want our borders, all of them, defended with lethal force. I don't want just fences. I want machine guns on those things. That said, I also think that we can have compassion for many of these people who have been lured, and I want to stress the word lured, to come to our border by Democrats. Do not blame the migrants themselves. I mean, I'm not talking about the criminal elements or the militia aspects who have been sleeper cells sent into our country. I'm talking about people that Democrats, globalists, encouraged to come to our border, not caring what would happen to these people. And they are desperate people. I have met with hundreds of them. I have seen what is going on, and I am hoping that we can achieve 2 things here. Close our border, defend it with lethal force, have a sensible immigration policy, and help these people stay in their own country. So I do intend to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to tell you about it in the context of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Now, if you're observing the places where I'm going and you're wondering what I'm doing, they can all seem like very disconnected threads. But the fact of the matter is they are all a single thread. And that is because I am going to places like Davos, Switzerland. And by the way, I cannot wait to go there in January to see the absolute panic, because they are all very, very concerned that the globalist dream, their utopian, anti-human, anti-child, anti-freedom agenda is crumbling before their eyes. And let's hope that it is. We hope that over the course of the next 4 years, or possibly 8 or even 12 years, if Vance were to be elected, say in 2028 and 32, which he would be eligible for, we could see the complete destruction of the globalist agenda. We're not there yet, but I am looking forward to going there and seeing the panic in Davos. And I say that because I don't like going to Davos. It's not easy to get there. It's a pain, and there's a spirit about the place that I really hate, at least during the World Economic Forum, in spite of the fact that it's a very, very beautiful place to be. But you see, that is connected. We talk about ideas having consequences. The ideas are hatched in places like Davos, and the consequences are felt down at the grassroots level by these migrants and by others for whom they care nothing about, and I dare say haven't met any of them, don't care, just simply do not care. So these are issues that we are exploring, and I intend to tell you a little bit about, because I want you to understand the connection between the ideas and the consequences. I want you to see those two. Today, we can talk about that. We can talk about previous episodes of Ideas Have Consequences. We can talk about the next 4 years. What is that going to look like? Now that Trump has been elected, we can talk about the world situation. We can talk about spiritual issues. You know, I will tell you that I do not really want to spend every episode talking about politics. And I feel like that's where I've been forced to be by no one other than the circumstances. I don't have bosses who say you have to do this. I choose the topics and choose what I'm talking about. But I feel that it has been kind of a necessity over the course of the last year, because it has dominated public discourse, and there has been an alarming trends that we've seen politically that have disastrous consequences. Disastrous political ideas that have disastrous consequences for ordinary people. So I feel like we've had to spend a lot of time there. I'm hoping that over the course of the next 4 years, we'll be able to talk about a lot of other things and get into some real important, significant spiritual issues. But today, I am taking your questions, and I am looking forward to taking your questions. So Jonathan, if you want to start queuing up some questions from the audience, I will do my best to try to answer them. As we go through life, the years bring us wisdom, experience, and memories we hold dear. Yet with age, our health often faces new challenges. It's a natural part of life, but it's crucial to address these changes with the right care and attention. For me, one of the ways to stay sharp is to supplement. I've been using Liver Health Formula, and I recommend you try it for yourself to see the results that it can bring. And right now, I think is the time to start taking care of your liver, because there is a silent epidemic affecting 100 million Americans. 1 in 3 Americans suffer from an overworked and sluggish liver. It affects our weight, energy levels, clear thinking and productivity, and even sleep. Our livers get bombed every day with GMOs, microplastics, toxins, and all of the stuff that you might not even know about. Liver Health Formula can support your liver to minimize the impacts of all of this. It is a premium supplement designed with 11 clinically proven botanicals to support and detoxify your liver, helping you feel revitalized and ready to conquer each day. Just listen to Mr. Harrington's testimonial, who shared his transformative journey. At first, I was skeptical, but the health improvement has been nothing but amazing. The tired, foggy feeling I've had is gone. I have more energy for a longer duration. Also, the service and delivery is always prompt. Of course, results are not typical, thus you have to see for yourself. There's an exclusive deal for my audience. Head to getliverhelp.com/Larry. And as a special offer, you'll get a free 1-month supply of nano-powered omega-3s with your order. That's getliverhelp.com/Larry. All right, JB asks, it was cool to see you so excited about Trump's election night victory. Do you think this is a turning point for America? JB, I want to say yes, yes, and yes. Yes, I'm still pumped. I am still riding on a cloud. Now, let us hope that Republicans the Trump administration does not blow this opportunity, that rhinos do not blow this opportunity. I don't want to see guys like John Thune, for instance, blow this up. I am hoping, I will remember way back in, I think it was 1994, Newt Gingrich's contract with America. Some of you will be old enough to remember that. And the contract with America was a huge success initially when it came out of the gates and gave Republicans control of Congress, and they did nothing. They did nothing, and it was so deflating. There was this sense that somehow the Republicans themselves, that Democrats had dirt on them or something because they didn't have the courage of their stated convictions, and we saw very little happening. I hope that does not happen this time. So for now, I am excited. I am cautiously optimistic, but we have to continue to hold our elected representatives accountable, and that means right now. I mean, we've seen cheating still going on in places like Arizona and Pennsylvania. That crap has to stop. It has to stop. But do I believe this is a turning point for America? I believe it certainly can be. This is potentially a Waterloo for globalists, for the global left. It is potentially a disaster, a battle that could turn into a disastrous loss of the entire war for the left, but we're not there yet. What we've won is what we've won is a battle, and there's a war yet left to fight. So conservatives, the American people who care about this country, who believe in God, who believe in the potential of the American people when they are rightly grounded and motivated, they cannot sit on their hands. They have to continue to act. And see, and this is the conservative mindset. We have a tendency to come out every now and then and to vote decisively and then go back to our homes and say, okay, we saved the nation. Now we can go back to business as usual. That's what cannot happen. We cannot go back to business as usual because the left will continue to do what the left does, and that is a complete disregard for the will of the American people, a complete disregard for the rule of law, for the Constitution, and a complete disregard for America itself. Those are all things that have to stop. But I'm pretty excited about the fact that I believe we're going to see an end to this war in Ukraine. Some of you who didn't vote for Trump, you need to understand that your boys, possibly your girls, considering the direction that we were going, they were going to be fighting a war in Ukraine against Russia. We were slowly ramping up in Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan style towards a full-scale war, except this time with a nuclear power. So I'm pretty excited to see that that's going to come to an end. I'm pretty excited to see that immigration, this mass immigration, is going to come to an end. I can tell you, I'll just tease the topic by saying this. The migrant camps that I visited about maybe 4 months ago, which were pretty full, are already a fraction of the size that they were before the election. And even though Trump hasn't taken office and won't until January 20th of 2025, migrants are already turning back because they can see the writing on the wall. I'm pretty excited about mass deportations. Yes, I do care about what happens to these migrants, and yes, I am excited about mass deportations. They need to happen. Both things can be true. They need to happen. I'm pretty excited to see that already we are seeing what I think is, in 2016, this didn't happen. Trump won, but we didn't see the institutions of America. By that, I mean corporate America, I mean big tech, I mean media. We didn't see them take a turn to the right. And if anything, they became more radical leftists. I think this time we are going to see institutions turning towards the right. We're going to see an institutional change in media, in elements of big tech, not in Google, and in the culture and things like movies and education and things of this nature. I think the woke house of cards is collapsing, but we got to continue to press the fight. Next question. Scott Schaefer asks, is Matt Gaetz going to make it? I don't know. I really don't know. And quite honestly, I'm not even sure how I feel about it. His is the nomination that I am the least excited about. I think there were better qualified people to nominate for that position. That said, will he make it? I really don't know. It's not clear to me anyway, whether or not these claims of ethics violations have any legs or not. Is this all just being ginned up in order to destroy the character of this man, or is there actually something behind the claim? And I actually don't know the answer to that. But I wouldn't call myself a big Matt Gaetz fan. I'm not anti-Matt Gaetz per se. I can't say that I'm all that excited about his nomination. Next. Do you like Trump's cabinet picks so far? Well, that kind of dovetails nicely with the previous question. I do. Some of them I'm quite excited about. One that I'm really not so sure what I think about is Kristi Noem for Homeland Security. A few years ago, you could probably find me in an interview somewhere saying that Kristi Noem was a rising star in the Republican Party. I saw her at one point, just a few years ago. I saw her as the female version of Ron DeSantis, as a strong governor. She was somebody who stood very strong throughout COVID. She's attractive, she's articulate, young. She seemed to have everything going for her. And then all of a sudden, the wheels kind of came off. She started doing, I don't know if she's having a midlife crisis or what happened, but she started doing very strange things. She was doing this odd, promotion for a dentist, teeth whitening and all that. She went and clearly had, a facelift which she didn't need. It's a very strange thing to do there. But what troubles me most is she collapsed on the transgender issue of men participating in female sports, pretending to be women. She could have signed legislation which would have outlawed that in her state, and due to corporate pressure, she gave in. That bothers me, and it bothers me a lot because it says to me that when pressure is applied to her in her position as the chief of Homeland Security, she'll collapse again. She'll cave again. And the pressures are going to be much greater there than when she is governor of the state of South Dakota. So that is one that concerns me a little bit. I love Homan, the border czar. I love that guy. It's like we've appointed, John Wayne to secure our borders. I like him quite a lot. I like the fact that he's very plain speaking, that he's very clear about what he wants to do, and that he doesn't pussyfoot about it. He's just very, very clear on the issue. I've enjoyed watching him in interviews and the things that he's had to say, and he's pretty clear on his mandate, what his job is. I say this to young people all the time, but it's worth saying here. Some people flounder about in life because they're not clear on their mission. And again, I make a distinction between goals and mission. Your goals are short-term things. They're things like, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to work out, at the gym, 4 days a week, or, I want to make sure, I want to read my Bible daily, whatever. Those are goals. Your mission is different. You need to be clear on what your life's mission is. And people who are very, very clear on that, who are single-minded about their mission, they are far more successful in life. And I don't define success as fame or fortune. I define it as people who are accomplishing what they set out to do. I am 100% clear on my mission. And anything that does not align with my mission, I don't do. It's just very simple for me. If I'm asked to do things that are very good sometimes, very interesting, fascinating, very worthy, but if they do not align with my mission, a mission that I perceive to be one that was, given to me, a calling that was given to me by God. What was the Blues Brothers that they said were on a mission from God? Well, I'm on a mission from God. I'm pretty clear on that. And the borders are, he is 100% clear on his mission. And that just comes through whenever he talks. He doesn't ramble off into other areas and other issues and other topics. He is single-minded, and I love that about that guy. Next question. I want to make you aware of a course that I have filmed, that I've put together. It took a lot of time for me to put this together, and we're calling it Social Justice Exposed. It really is a comprehensive course for understanding Marxism. And these are days, by the way, where you need to understand what Marxism is. It's 49 chapters, almost 3 hours long. It's a kind of masterclass in Marxism. Now, it's a $99 value for just $49. Now, what do you get? A lifetime access to the course, plus a year membership to my private community, the Posse. Join the Posse. Members of the Posse get access to private chat rooms with other members, invites to monthly online book club meetings, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to be doing this little book, Tenebris, by Russell Kirk. First, you'll get access to exclusive video content, access to exclusive writings, discounts on additional course purchases, and the course available right now. Now, this took me a lot of time and effort to create. I went out to Dallas and we spent a couple of days putting this masterclass course together. Why don't you watch this trailer? Justice. It's a grand word, isn't it? It rides high over entrances to courts of law. It animates slogans and adorns banners of movements. The Russian Revolution, peace, bread, land. The Nazis, work and bread. Today, it's Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And it is on the tongue of everyone whose ambition is power, be he an aspiring liberator or a would-be tyrant. The slogans cloak a sordid agenda, Marxism. Let me be clear from the outset. The desire for justice is God-given. What we will be discussing in this course is how the modern social justice movement isn't the means of doing it. Social justice and Black Lives Matter are just words spoken by the ventriloquist doll on Marx's lap, and it leads to human degradation and ultimately to human annihilation. If you stand firm, you will be attacked. By equipping you in this course, I hope to awaken you to the horrors of the ideology. I hope you'll join us. Discounted pricing is only available for early members until the end of November. So please get it and join the Posse. I look forward to engaging with each of you. From Eve of the West, Bond, meaning James Bond, how big of a threat do you think it is for Trump to be taken out prior to January. I think assassination is a very real threat. I saw that picture that's become a meme that's going all over the place that shows RFK, Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump and Elon Musk all on a private jet eating McDonald's, and those are pretty funny. I would not put all those people on the same plane together. Thank God J.D. Vance wasn't there. Those two should never be in the same place at the same time. I think the threat of assassination is greater now than it was pre-election. Now, after January 20th, I think that threat drops significantly, and it is because I think the left will fear Vance more than Trump. Let's think about it for a second. Their whole character assassination plan and their plan to create an atmosphere of actual assassination has been ongoing for many years now. But once Trump actually takes office after January 20th, 2025, they're going to shift a lot of their focus towards Vance because Trump can't run again. He's lame duck at that point. And they know that, and thus he's less of a threat to them. And J.D. Vance becomes a real major threat to them. In some ways, much greater threat to them than Donald Trump. And it is because J.D. Vance, where Trump has some principles to which he is committed. He loves America. He believes in, he's a capitalist. He wants the borders closed. He likes people, and he thinks he should preserve free speech and protect the Constitution. But Trump, I don't think, has a political ideology. I don't think he has a real worldview as such. J.D. Vance does. And J.D. Vance is a committed conservative and an intellectual, and he's a strong alpha male. That's a guy that they're going to want to destroy because he can run for president in 2028 and again in 2032. And if he doesn't win one of those, he can run again in 2036. So he's young. So he is going to become somebody that they're really focused on. So after January 20th, I think assassination threats to Trump will decrease because Democrats don't want J.D. Vance to become president of the United States unless there's an attempt, as in the Lincoln assassination, to try to kill both the president and the vice president at the same time. But yes, to answer your question, I think that the threat to Donald Trump, to J.D. Vance is very, very real. And Trump is a little too cavalier for my taste. I wish that guy would go into a basement between now and January 20th, because I do believe that the threat on his life is very, very real. And we as a people need to be praying for him. We need to be praying for the Vances. We need to be praying for this country. Next question. Just a simple guy. Larry, can you speak to the role of NGOs and migrant caravans? Oh my gosh. Just a simple man. I can tell you this. I'd probably would do a normal ideas have consequences today, but the thing is, I need to have the blackboard put behind me because I want to map this out for you, what's actually happening. And it looks a little bit like this, Just a Simple Man. Just a simple man. Is that a song? Is there a song called that? It should be. Sounds like a good country song. There is. Okay, so Jonathan is telling me that there is a song called Just a Simple Man. Anyway, I think it would look something like this. All these, have you noticed that now we're learning how the Pentagon and other U.S. departments, agencies are missing not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars. Nobody knows where it went. Well, I suggest to you that it has gone to, among other places, back into the pockets of Democrats and certainly to Ukraine and to corrupt politicians and globalists who are helping to push that agenda around the world, but it has gone towards these mass migrations. And so the Biden administration has been using the UN and NGOs to move these migrant caravans from all parts of the world into the United States. And I have seen this firsthand. And in fact, I took a picture just a few days ago when I was in Necoclí, Colombia, cartel town. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting some videos of us landing on one of these remote airstrips in Colombia in this cartel town. And we do it unannounced. And the reason for that is the pilots will ask me, hey, we need to file a flight plan. And I say, no, don't want you to do that. We're just gonna fly in, going to show up unannounced. And the reason for that is I don't want to alert them that I'm coming. And what they do in these on these remote runways, because there's no staff there, watching these runways, so they put livestock out on the runways, or they put some other obstacles. In this case, they put trucks. And that's to prevent ghost flights, is to prevent you from being able to come in and getting out before anybody really knew you were there. So the result is you show up, the pilots look down at the runway, they do a flyover, they see that there's cattle on it or, whatever is on it, and they have to keep circling. And that gives either the bad guys or the police, who might be the same thing, time to go, whoa, who is that? Who's that circling over the runway? And so by the time you do land, they're there to greet you. And I've posted some video of police, sirens running and all this, waiting for us like a reception committee in Necoclí. But I was taking pictures of what some of these migrants are wearing. And they are wearing lanyards with IOM on it, International Office of Migration, or OIM, Office of International Migration on them. That's an NGO, a UN NGO, that I promise you is being funded with your tax dollars, that are bringing these people into the United States. And so I'm going to tell you some really human stories and share with you the adventure, because it really is an adventure getting some of these stories and seeing some of these things in these countries and following these people. It's absolutely incredible. It is the stuff of an Indiana Jones movie, not the Indiana Jones movie like where they reach in and tear a guy's heart out and eat it. I think that was in one of them that I hated, but more of the one like with the rolling ball, coming down that big rock, chasing Indiana Jones as he jumps out of a cave. It's more like that one. And I'm going to tell you those stories in the next episode of Ideas Have Consequences. Next question. I'm so pumped. The next 4 years, people, you should be excited about the direction we have the potential to head. We're not going there yet, but we have the potential to go that way. And it's pretty exciting to me, because these should be really, really heady times. A question just came up, and I didn't see who it was from, but the question was, why don't these migrants stay in their own countries? Well, that's going to be something I'm going to answer for you as well. It has to do with, and again, these are the threads, the dots that I'm connecting for you. The World Economic Forum is fascist. It is fascist. They're not Marxist. You cannot be a billionaire and a Marxist. The two are not compatible. They are fascist. They want to suppress free speech. They want open borders. They want to, quote unquote, save the planet, but they want you to live according to Marxist principles, not them. They're up here at the top governing at in a fascist model, but you are living according to a Marxist model where you supposedly share and share alike, and you'll have nothing and you'll be happy, supposedly. But when you start connecting those dots, what you see is, again, the ideas up here and then the way they're playing out in the lives of real people. Where are these migrants coming from? Well, when you're in South America and you're at the Darien Gap and you're in Mexico, I would say to you that I won't say a majority of the migrants are Venezuelan. I will say a plurality of them are Venezuelan. They're mostly coming out of Venezuela. Many of them are coming out of Peru. Many of them are coming out of Honduras. Starting to see more coming out of Brazil and Chile, and some out of Colombia. Now, what is going on in all those countries? Marxism. All of those countries in the last few years, and let me repeat them. Let's see if I can get this off the top of my head here. Peru, Honduras, Brazil, Chile, the most stable democracy in South America, Colombia, and Venezuela, they have all fallen to Marxists in dubious 2020-like elections. And they are destroying lives. And then you combine that with COVID, which just knocked not millions, not hundreds of millions, billions of people back down into squalor. And when you can't feed your family, what are you going to do? You're going to go somewhere else. So that is what's happening. That's why you can't blame these people. They are doing what my forefathers did, what your forefathers did in coming to this country. But we cannot feed and house the entire world any more than I can open the doors to my home and take in every homeless person. But that doesn't mean I don't care about them and can't help them and help improve their circumstances. We have to help these people stay in their own countries. And by the way, many of them want to stay in their own countries. Venezuelans are a very proud people. They love their country. Many of them want to go back there, but they can't because they cannot feed themselves. They cannot feed their families. So they are in search of something else. That is what they're doing. That's what's happening. But that's why. So again, Marxism, the very kind of crap that Democrats, that globalists are trying to impose on Western Europe and on the United States, and North America in general, the very policies that they're pushing here are the policies that have destroyed the lives of these people and caused this problem to begin with. Democrats caused the problem, and they continue to cause the problem. Globalists. So Democrats domestically, globalists, beyond our borders. Next question. What do I think the next 4 years will look like? I think the next 4 years, I hope they can be awesome. They can be awesome. I think we're already seeing the worm turn, as they say. I think we're starting to see the perverse sexual agenda of the left starting to crumble. I want to see all that crap burned to the ground. The Rachel Levines and the so-called Rachel Levine and the Sam Brentons and all these sick bastards who have been pedophiles, been running this country, have been pushing their agenda in schools. I want that stuff burned to the ground. It is awful, awful stuff. I want to declare war on woke. I want to destroy what all of these people stand for. That's what I want. And by the way, I don't want revenge. I want justice. General Milley should be reinstated and court-martialed. He is a traitor. By his own admission, by the way. He is a traitor. Anthony Fauci should be tried. I agree with Elon Musk as it relates to that. I am not in favor of a policy of retribution. I leave that to the Lord. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And there will be plenty of hell, quite literally, hell to pay when it comes to that. But there must be justice for the evil that we have seen over the course of the last, not 4 years, 8 years. Election rigging, lawfare, unjust efforts to destroy the president of the United States and his family, to pilfer his wealth. This is what Democrats have done. There must be justice. And because if there isn't justice, then you make a mockery of the Constitution and you make a mockery of our laws, and you do nothing to prevent this stuff from happening again. In fact, quite the opposite. You've basically incentivized it because you're saying to people that there are no consequences for doing these kinds of things to the American people. That stuff cannot be allowed. I think the next 4 years can be fantastic. If we maintain our principles, we don't become like Democrats. We beseech God to act on our behalf. We give thanks. This Thanksgiving should be a wonderful Thanksgiving. People, please give thanks to God. Please give thanks to God for all the good things in your life, and yes, even for some of the bad ones. Thank Him. Thank Him for sparing this country from, a Sodom and Gomorrah kind of fate. That was the direction that we were headed. I think we're also going to see a resurgent 1976 bicentennial-like patriotism that we haven't seen in a long time. You're going to see Americans celebrating and loving their country. And by the way, you're going to see a lot of people who are here in this country legally doing the same thing because they love this country and they want to be in this country. And they recognize the opportunities that it gives them. So I'm hoping those are the things that we're going to see. But for that to happen, we must remain true to our convictions. We must remain true to who we are. And we must be a generous, decent, good people. We must be worthy of the grace, of the mercy that God has shown to us. And I hope we will be. Next question. I'm excited to announce the Ideas Have Consequences book club. Now, the date for the first book club meeting will be Wednesday, December 4th at 10 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. I'll be doing it twice. And the reason for that is because we have a lot of subscribers to Ideas Have Consequences who are overseas, or maybe you work and you can't do it at 10 a.m. or you can't do it at 6 p.m. Maybe you can do one or the other. So we want to try to accommodate you. The first book, and it's really a booklet because it's a short story, is Tenebris by Russell Kirk. Order the book at Trinity Forum's website. You'll see a link in the description below this video. You'll receive exclusive access only to members of the Posse when you join the book club. So sign up using the link in the description below this video. Now, the format of the book club is going to be, it's not going to be a YouTube live event. It's going to be a Zoom webinar-like call where members of the Posse will be able to discuss the book with me and with other members of the Posse. So we'll actually be able to see you and hear your voice, and we'll actually be able to interact. But the idea of this is to try to keep it small enough that I'm actually able to engage with you individually. You'll actually be able to interact and express some of your views. Now, I will say this. I am ruthless as an old teacher, old professor, that I require, if you're going to say anything, you have to have read it. Nobody's interested in hearing your opinion when you haven't done the homework. But make sure you do, and I think you'll really enjoy this little book. I'm trying to choose books that I think that you'll enjoy, and you'll be intrigued by where I take it. So when you join up, you'll receive an email with a private meeting link before the event. So come prepared with your questions. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to the Ideas Have Consequences book club. So please sign up. Jason O'Brien asked, do you think the UK will choose socialist EU or free market USA over the next 4 years? It's a great question, Jason. I think they'll choose the U.S. and not necessarily because they really want to. Globalists don't, but because the EU is taking a beating, is absolutely taking a beating economically. And I have been saying this for a very long time, that globalists recognized, in a way that a lot of Americans did not, globalists recognized that for their new world order to be achieved, to be successful, the United States sat like a keystone at the top of that arch, that they could collapse the entire free world if they took out that one keystone. And that's why you were hearing so many Americans, including myself, saying, and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance saying, Elon Musk, among others, saying that this was the most important election possibly in American history because it would determine the fate of this nation. I believe that if Donald Trump had not been elected, freedom as we know it in this country was gone forever. We would become a one-party state, and Democrats would be able to become much more entrenched and sophisticated, and their election rigging. I think it would be over. But globalists didn't succeed. They lost. And I think now the potential for a rollback on the entire, not just in this country, but globally on the leftist agenda is huge, But I keep coming back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, and that is that I'm cautiously optimistic. I am cautiously optimistic. We cannot sit on our hands. Jesus said in John 9:4, I believe it is, we must work while it is day, for night is coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we must work now harder than we did prior to the election. We've got to see this stuff through, and we have to do it. You know, I've been fighting for this. I know many of you have been fighting for this for years now, for my children, for my grandchildren. I want them to have the world that I had. I want them to have the opportunities that I had. I want them to be able to worship the Lord freely, not in a police state. I want them to be able to speak their minds. I want them to be able to achieve the American dream, if that should be a goal of theirs. I want them to be able to fulfill their potential. That's what I want for them in a free country. And by the way, because I do care about many people in many other countries around the world, those countries, this is something a lot of Americans don't understand. As the United States goes, so goes freedom around the world. That's what I meant when I was talking about the keystone. It's sitting atop the arch. If the U.S. goes, freedom in many other countries that are fledgling, that are just coming along, those boats get swamped. It's all over globally. But that didn't happen. So I think some pretty exciting things are ahead of us. And I am hoping, because right now Britain, the war on farmers it's Stalinism. I'm not saying that in a hyperbolic manner. I'm saying it because that's what it is. We're seeing actual Stalinism in Great Britain right now, and they are in the de-kulakization phase of Stalinism. The kulaks were it's kind of a oxymoron, but they were the wealthy peasants, the peasants who are a little more entrepreneurial. And Stalin decided to wipe them out, machine gun them, whole villages, send them to collective farms, execute them, send them to Siberia. This is what he did. He destroyed the kulaks and he seized the land. That is what is going on in Great Britain right now. They're not executing people yet. They're forcing them via aggressive taxation and dubious government means to surrender their farms because they want the land. They're trying to take it from white farmers. It'll be owned by somebody overseas, or Muslims will all own it. I don't know, but we are seeing that taking place in Great Britain. They are arresting people. In case you're not aware of this, they're arresting people in Great Britain right now for memes. For memes. That's what's going on there because you're tweeting things that they don't like. My show partner in WTF, a show that you should watch, The World According to Taunton and Fox. That's what that means. Whenever you see WTF, don't let your mind go into some, potty language. That's not what it means. When people say WTF, they mean our show. That's what they're talking about. World of Taunton and Fox. Lawrence Fox, my partner in that show, he lives under perpetual threat of arrest because he is the face of a movement. He is the head of the Reclaim Party. And they want to do away with him because they don't like what he's saying. So he's having to deal with that crap all the time. I think that now that Trump is coming into office, I believe that you're going to begin to see some of this stuff in the UK starting to be rolled back. And that is because, as J.D. Vance recently said, just speaking in terms of the war in Ukraine and speaking in terms of free speech, he said that if Europe continues to suppress free speech, specifically with X, with Twitter, that the United States would withdraw their support from NATO. I mean, that is a heavy, heavy threat, and I think he means it. So I think you're going to see more of those types of threats against the EU in general, against the UK, which never really achieved Brexit. They did everything they could to defeat the will of the people with Brexit. 2016, the British people said, we want out of the EU. It still hasn't really happened. And that's because they've used lawfare. They have used a bureaucratic nightmare to prevent it. Next question. Larry, you tweeted that you were looking forward to this year's World Economic Forum. Why? Well, I just stated that just a minute ago, but I do not like going to the World Economic Forum for this reason. I've been the last 2 years. The Posse members will know that I go, and I just walk into every building like I own it and am not stopped. And that I go there kind of undercover. And I just pretend to be a WEFer, and I sit and listen to that's what they call themselves, the World Economic Forum, WF. They call themselves WEFers. And I just go and I listen to them. And I don't like going there because, A, it's hard to get there. You know, you're talking about going to an alpine ski village in the dead of winter. So that's problematic just right away. And add to that the fact that there's really no easy path there. You know, you can fly into Zurich or you can take a train north. You know, you can go from Geneva or something to try to get there, but it's not easy. You have to switch trains constantly or take taxis or whatever, unless you're a WEFer. They fly in on their private jets, and then they take helicopters from the airport into Davos so that they can lecture all of us on our carbon footprint. I mean, that's the way these people roll. And then add to that, I wouldn't say that the place is spiritually dead. I have said that in the past, but I've decided, no, it's very much spiritually alive, but with the wrong spirits. If you've ever been in places where you feel like truly evil places, where you feel a spiritual oppression, maximum security prisons, I get that feeling there. I get that feeling this trip where I just was in places like Nikko and the Darien Gap and some of these migrant camps. You come away with that. Parts of Africa, I've had that feeling where you feel the physical presence of evil. That's the way the World Economic Forum is, and yet superficially, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's orderly, the restaurants are nice, and all of that, but it has a weird vibe to it. So I don't like going. I've gone because I feel like it's important for my work. It's important that I'm able to relate to people like you, what goes on there. But the last couple of years, those people have just carried themselves with such arrogance, with such a swagger, with a confidence that they were the masters of the universe. And this time, I think I'm going to sense panic. I think I'm going to sense panic in Babylon. There's a song by that title, by the way. Panic in Babylon. Next question. Mark Magwood asks, what are your thoughts on Biden and the deep state decision to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles into Russia? I was wondering if anybody was going to ask me this question. That is a great question, Mark. I think that it is an effort to escalate the war and thus continue the war, force Trump to continue the war that he has announced he plans to end. So I think Democrats are trying their best to force Trump's hand. So they're going to pick the fight just as they're leaving office. And then Trump is left with this mess. I mean, it's already a mess. I mean, you have this war with Ukraine, which we provoked. We provoked this war. We wanted this war. And so suddenly Biden says, hey, we're going to lob some missiles directly into Russia. So I think that that's what they're trying to do, trying to escalate the war and leave Trump with a problem that he can't really get out of, that he has to continue the war because they want perpetual war. And they want to topple Putin. But Putin isn't stupid. He isn't stupid. He's corrupt, but he's not stupid. And I think Putin will know, if I can hang on for the next 2 months, isn't it about 2 months? Yep, 2 months and a day. If I can hang on for the next 2 months, Trump is going to end this. He's going to end this war. So I don't think that that Putin will take the bait. Now, it could be that Democrats plan to escalate still further beyond this, maybe even sending U.S. troops. Something that does force Putin's hand, forces him to retaliate and to meet the escalation. But hopefully Putin won't fall for that, and that he will just bide his time, knowing that this is all going to come to an end when Trump comes to office. But that's what I think is trying to happen there. And by the way, if you want to really know my understanding, my nuanced perspective of this war, I've done at least a couple of podcasts on this issue. So let me say this. Some of you have come after me, in the comments. Don't bother. You're not going to make a dent in the way I perceive this. I've been in Ukraine, 7 to 10 times. I've been there a lot. I've dealt with the government. Ukraine is a hellhole of corruption. It is. This war isn't about democracy. That's just to sell you on it. Ukraine isn't democratic in any meaningful way. Ukraine isn't free in any meaningful way. And then somebody will turn around and say, you must be pro-Putin. Not at all. Russia is equally corrupt. And maybe the most corrupt party in this menage a trois of a war is my own country, the United States. We provoked this war. We wanted it. And we are using, to quote Lindsey Graham, we will fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. We are prepared to use Ukraine. We are using Ukraine as a proxy to fight a globalist war. This is a globalist agenda. They don't mind that Putin is corrupt. They don't mind that he doesn't allow free speech or that he bumps off journalists. They don't mind that he's essentially a mafia boss. None of that offends them because that's who the globalists, that's who Democrats are. What offends them is that Putin is not on board with the globalist agenda, and thus they want to get rid of him. That's what they're trying to do. That's what this war is about. It is not about freedom. It's not about making the world safe for democracy. Has nothing to do with that. We need to get out of that war. And that doesn't mean, again, two things can be true at the same time. That doesn't mean we don't care about victims in both of these countries. And there are loads of them in Russia and in Ukraine. I have met them, by the way. I was just last year, I was in Poland, and I was interviewing Ukrainians who were coming, because they're border states. I was interviewing Ukrainian war refugees coming into Poland. And again, that's another thread from the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is very pro-Ukraine war. I sat there and listened to them last year, wax eloquently on it, none of them having actually been there and seen what's going on. So that's what I want to see happen there. But I think that this is an effort. Mark, I think was your name. And thank you, Mark, for being a part of the Posse, or hope you will join the Posse. By the way to do that is, I think, they can put it up on the screen, I think, is join.larrytaunton.com. Join.larrytaunton. That's TAUNTON.com. Join the Posse. We hope that you will become people who are kind of shareholders in this podcast, that you essentially own stock in it, that you are helping us do the things that we do. If you like the stuff that I'm doing, me going to the World Economic Forum, me going south of the border, me keeping an eye on these nefarious people, I need you to help fund what I'm doing to push me forward. You can also go to Fixed Point Foundation's websites. You can go to LarryAlexTaunton.com, and there you will see a donation tab. And those donations are tax deductible. So you can go over there and help fund the work that I do. So, Mark, I think this is an effort to escalate the war. It is an effort to escalate the war and leave Trump with no options, and to try to provoke Putin to retaliate and thus escalate the war still further. Next question. Francisco Ceballos Peniche. I'm probably not saying it right, Ceballos Peniche asks, I'm so excited and thankful to you for literally saving the world from evil. I'm Mexican and never been in the U.S. Thank you for staying bravely on board during this spiritual battle. Thank you, Francisco, for saying that. Listen, I love your country, Francisco. I've learned so much about Mexico just this year. I just had a wonderful experience in Mexico City. A Mexican family there was very kind to host me for dinner and to tour me around Mexico City, which, by the way, the city center, it is a lovely city. If you're looking for a vacation for your family, go to Mexico City. It's not that expensive to get there. You know, from Houston, I think it's 2.5 hour flight. And Mexico City, which is, I think, arguably the largest city in the Northern Hemisphere, the weather is great. It's consistently in the 60s and 70s, even in the summer months. The people are very friendly, elegant, urbane, wonderful restaurants. I personally love Mexican food, so I enjoy that very much. There's plenty of nice hotels, a fascinating history. You name it, you'll find it there. And I would really encourage you to go there and to spend some time there. And listen, Mexico, people often ask me, where could I live if not in the United States? Where would I live? And that's actually a complicated question, because when you really start to think about it, there are countries that I really like to visit, but I would never want to live there because they're two very different things. For instance, Paris, going to Paris, France. Paris is lovely from the standpoint of a tourist. There's something that I call the traveler's fallacy, and it is where you travel to a country and you come away with the impression that, I'd love to live in France. I'd love to live in Paris or Bordeaux. Well, you went there and stayed in the Four Seasons Hotel, and you went shopping along the Champs-Élysées and enjoyed a dinner cruise along the Seine. And you thought, gosh, I'd love to live here. Well, that's not the way you would live there. That's not the way Frenchmen live there. So the reality of living in France versus visiting is very different. Mexico City is a city that I could enjoy living in, I think. It has a little bit of everything that I like. Again, I like the food. I enjoy the people. I love the weather, nice coffee shops. It's a very interesting place and lots of stimulation, intellectual and otherwise, that just feeds me. But I've really been working on rounding out my understanding of what's taking place south of the border. And that is because as Americans, we tend to think everything south of our border is Mexico. Just everything is Mexico. Peru, Mexico. Colombia, Mexico. Venezuela, Mexico. Brazil, Mexico. We just think it's all Mexico. And of course, this is not the case. And the nuances politically, socially, culturally are all very important and very different. And here's the thing that I thought was very interesting, Francisco. Love the name, by the way, Francisco. One of the things that I find interesting is that how many Trump supporters I found in Mexico City. I was pretty sure that everyone was going to hate Trump, be anti-Trump. Not at all. I would say that it was, this is very unscientific, I'm just speaking anecdotally, but I would say it was 50-50. I found, some people at the hotels, they were all pretty anti-Trump, and it's only because I think they assumed that, their American visitors are anti-Trump. But, and so they're trained for the most part to stay out of politics and to say nothing. But if you force the conversation without revealing where you stand and you say, what do you think about the recent election? They'll all begin to, to wring their hands and go, oh, it's just too bad, Trump was elected. But then when you say, hey, I voted for him, what happens next is actually quite interesting. Either they begin to squirm or they come out and say, well, actually, I was glad that he won. But a lot of Mexicans are strong Trump supporters. And by the way, you should be in Mexico. And you may say, why? Because the U.S. economy is going to start roaring again. That is nothing but good for Mexico. And these migrants that are passing through your country, that train is going to start coming to a stop. You are going to have to stop dealing with all these migrants that are passing through your country, and many of whom are committing criminal acts. That's going to be much easier on you too. That's going to be much better. And by the way, the average Mexican should in no way be on board with a globalist agenda. So you're going to start seeing that agenda rolled back in your country too. So I think this is good for Mexico. I think it's very good for Mexico. But Francisco, I love your country. Truly, I enjoy visiting there. Next question. Vicky Deloge. Question. I watched a special on the border, and officers said those crossing often paid $10,000 to $15,000 if they're poor. Where do you get that kind of money? Well, I'm not sure that I accept that figure. I think that that number is much smaller, but let me tell you the way it works. The way the cartels are running this, and by the way, the cartels, this is what should really outrage you. The cartels are working in cooperation with these NGOs. In other words, they're working in coordination unofficially with the Biden administration. They're working together. I've watched it. I've stood and watched it, how they are working together. But the way the cartels work is they want money, okay? So in Nicoclí, the reason I wanted to go to Nicoclí is because I was noticing post-election that a lot of the migrant camps that I'd been to in Mexico City and elsewhere were emptying out, that just a few months ago, they were full of people, and now suddenly they weren't. Now, is that because they were turning back, or because those governments had pushed out those migrant camps, and thus they just moved to other parts of the city? Well, the only way to know that was to go to Nicoclí, and that's because Nicoclí is the bottleneck that they all have to pass through. It's what I call the Casablanca of South America. Have you ever seen that movie? If you haven't seen it, it's one of my favorite movies. You should go watch it. It's a great film, but that film begins by talking about refugees pouring out of Europe. They make their way across the Mediterranean to Morocco and to the city of Casablanca, where it says, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait, where they're all waiting for letters of transit that allow them to go to the United States. And that's what Nicoclí is. It's a place where people come and they wait in order to get ferries that are being run by the cartels to cross the Gulf to Akandi and then begin their journey through the Darien Gap northward through Mexico and eventually to the U.S. border. So I thought the only way I can really know what's happening here is if I go there. And if the numbers in Nicoclí are way down, then I will know that the migrant crisis is starting to slow down, which is actually a massive human trafficking op. But you see, the way the cartels there work, they're not stupid. So they see people who are, like, for instance, there was this one woman that I was talking to. She was from Brazil. She had 2 children. She has nothing, virtually nothing. So they may say to her, look, to get on this ferry, to go over to Darien, it's $150 a head for you and your children. Is that hard to get? You better believe it for someone like her. But is it achievable over the course of months? She could sell things. She could steal things. She could ask. And they have, fascinating, in a tiny little town like that, they have Western unions, 2 Western unions that are, I don't know, maybe a football field apart. And that's so they say, go call your family. You have relatives in America, get them to send you money. Right here, Western Union, give it to us. We'll put you on a boat and send you over. But what they also do is they see the Chinese, that is the cartels, see the Chinese coming, and they have more money. Or say people from India, and they go to them and they say, they don't tell them that it's $150 to get on a ferry. They say it's $5,000 per person because they know they can get it. Get it from your family. Back in China, get it from family in the United States or wherever. It's $5,000 a head. So the cartels, what they're doing is they're sizing up each individual and determining what they think they're able to pay. Venezuelans got nothing. Brazilians, nothing. Peruvians, nothing. Those people, they charge less. Somebody coming out of China, coming out of India, possibly even the Middle East, those are people who might have access to real money, and they charge them. Now, one woman that I interviewed, and this is very sad, this is a story that I will tell in the next podcast, she said that she wasn't charged anything. She said that looking down when she was talking to me. And then I told her, I've been to Nick Oakley. She was shocked. I said, I've been to Darien. She was shocked. And she said, well, then you know. And what I know is this, the cartels are not running charities. They don't let you get on a boat for nothing. They don't say, yeah, come on. So almost certainly sexual favors, something was done. She was pregnant. For all I know, she was raped. But there's no way they let her, her mother, and 3 children on a ferry for zero. This is the human tragedy, and it is all being caused by the Biden administration. So does it cost them 10 to 15,000? I think not. For the most part, these people do not have any of that kind of money. Some people are paying that, and it's because they can. But these are extremely desperate people. And let me add to this, by the way. Some people are watching this, and I understand why they think this. They see them wearing a Michael Jordan, official NBA jersey, or they see them wearing Nikes or something like that, and they think these people all have money. This is another story that's worth telling you. When you are donating your clothing locally, you think it's going to help local people. Did you know that it is a multi-billion-dollar business to take those clothes, sell them, they're put on containers and taken to the third world where they're sold very cheaply, but they're sold it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So you think you're giving it locally to to some local nonprofit in order to help local poor people. For the most part, that stuff is being put on containers and sent overseas where these people buy it, and they buy it on the cheap. It is a massive scandal, and I'd like to blow the lid off of that as well. Next question. We'll take a couple of more here before we shut this down. Do you think the celebs who said they will leave the country will really leave the country? I hope so. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Yesterday, the Biden administration is just a meme machine that just doesn't stop. Meme, not mean. They're mean too, but they're M-E-M-E. They're a meme machine. And yesterday, Biden's Twitter account, they tweeted this big, what do you call it? Portrait, not landscape photo, but a portrait that shows Biden kind of down in the bottom, quite small, speaking with the Amazon rainforest behind him. And it's huge. And it's kind of a weird looking photo. You're like, you have this lectern that is set up in the jungle with Biden standing there. And I thought the photo was funny. I thought it was kind of a weird photo. Here's a guy who couldn't be bothered to go to East Palestine, Ohio, with that train derailment and the poisoning of so many people there. Couldn't be bothered to do that. Didn't care. This is a guy that cannot be bothered to go to Maui with all that happened there with that wildfire. This is a guy who does not care about the American people, but guess what? He had time to go to the Amazon. He had time to go to the Amazon and to announce that Democrats are all about saving the planet. We already knew this. They are fundamentally anti-human. I keep telling you this. The global left, which includes Democrats, they're fundamentally anti-human. They do not care about people. For them, it is an either or. It's either the planet or us, and they choose the planet. But I thought, it looks like he's in this photo, and I retweeted it and said this, that it looks like Biden is opening like some kind of wildlife, sanctuary. And maybe it's a sanctuary for Democrats who all foolishly said they would leave the country if Trump was elected. Now, by the way, I don't think that many celebrities actually said that. A lot of this stuff is clickbait that you see on social media that says something like, Stephen King said he would leave the country if Biden is elected. How do you feel about that? Those things get tons of retweets. And when I go and search whether or not Stephen King actually said it, I get 0. So he didn't say that. But there are a few who did say it, and I'd love to see them leave the country, like permanently. Like Alec Baldwin did say in 2016, he would leave the country if Trump was elected. And guess what? He didn't. He stayed here and he shot and killed someone instead. That's the way they work. They are hypocrites. Next question. Very good. What do you think this election meant for Obama? I'm going to talk about this in the next Ideas Have Consequences. It is the end for Obama, I think. I think this is the complete destruction of the Obama coalition. I think it is the complete destruction of the Obama vision for America, which looked like was going to win out. When Trump won in 2016, catching Democrats completely off guard, it was Obama who weaponized government institutions against Trump that prevented him from carrying out a lot of his vision, particularly with a border wall. When Biden was elected, that was Obama's third presidential term, and it looked like he might even have a fourth. But I think this is going to spell the complete destruction of the Obama coalition. And it's because this time, one of the things, to go back to an earlier question, one of the things that Trump is doing this time that he didn't do the first time is that Trump is not choosing deep state types for his cabinet. I think he thought he could come in and work with Washington before. This time he's choosing political outsiders. He's choosing political outsiders to come in to destroy the deep state. He's not coming in this time naively. So I think he has a very different vision, a very different perspective on what he's going to do this time. And I also think that it's going to be very hard for Obama to maintain control of some of these government institutions, which he previously weaponized against Trump. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think this is the end for Obama. Is that the last question, or is there one more? Hannah Martin asks, should I wear my daddy's home Trump sweatshirt to Thanksgiving dinner with my mother who voted for Kamala? You know, that's very funny, Hannah. I would say no, and I know you're joking, but one of the very evil things that I believe that leftists have done, not just in this country but elsewhere, is that they have turned family members against each other. And the way they've done it is to say that you cannot have any fellowship with anybody who would vote for Trump. You cannot have, I mean, these people are Nazis, they're fascists, all that kind of language and rhetoric, which was false, given the fact that they're the ones who are actually pushing that type of agenda. And I think it's important we not become what the global left is. We're not motivated by hate. I hope we're motivated by love of country, love of God, love for people, not just people in the abstract, the way the left does. They love people in the abstract, just not in particular, the way Dostoevsky put it, but that we actually care about people. I care about what happens to some of these migrants, while at the same time wanting to see a strong immigration policy and a strong border. We care about people. So I would say be a gracious winner. You know, I have friends that every now and then when their team beats mine, you know, I'm a big Bama fan. And I have, you know, good friends, very good friends who are Auburn fans or let's say Georgia fans or whatever. And when their team beats mine, there's a few of them who they light up my phone to dunk on me when that happens. And, it's all in good fun. I get it. But when my team wins, which is most of the time, listen, I was born an American and I was born a Bama fan, which means I'm used to winning, people. But I try not to do that in reverse because I know that can feel pretty annoying. I try to be, a gracious winner about it. When Alabama won in 2017 with Tua Tagovailoa with that 2nd and 26 touchdown pass, I could hurt for Georgia fans. I've been on the other side of that before, and boy, that just rips your heart out. So I could celebrate while at the same time not rubbing it in, really needling them with that. I think politics is the same way. Be a gracious winner. Model the way we think they should behave. That's why I say we're not about revenge. We are about justice. This is not about, just trying to get back. It's about justice. We want to govern within the bounds of the laws of the land. We want to restore the integrity of our institutions, of the Constitution itself. So I would say be gracious, be kind, and this Thanksgiving should be one of the best Thanksgivings. Maybe the best Thanksgiving since VE Day, Victory Europe, or VJ Day at the end of World War II. Truly, I believe that kind of victory has been won. We just have to act on it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Ideas Have Consequences. Join the Posse. It's like the cost of a Netflix subscription, except rather than funding all of Netflix crap, you're funding good conservative programming over here. We need your help. I need your help. So please join us there and tune in this Friday for the next episode of WTF, World of Taunton and Fox, with my good friend Laza Fox. You guys have a great day. I'm out of here.